Welcome to our Upper Echelon feature where we speak to prolific South African leaders within our local business sphere. This week we speak to Ian Moir, who's the current chief executive of well-known clothing retailer Woolworths. Ian, you initially took up the helm at Woolies in November 2010, but before that you also were introduced the Country Road brand within the Woolworths fraternity. But take us a few steps back. You grew up in Scotland, studied your MBA in London, and have made your way all the way to South Africa. What exactly brought you here?
What brought me here was quite simple. It was a phone call from the board of Woolworths to say, would you like to come and run Woolies? And who would say no to that?
True. Interesting enough. But before that, what were you doing based in London as well as countries like Scotland?
Look, I left Scotland a long time ago. So I left Scotland 30 odd years ago. So I've been in London. I spent approximately 10 to 15 years. Australia, I spent 15 years. And then I've been nearly 4 years in South Africa. So I've been around.
It's not exactly every child's dream to wake up in the morning and want to be a CEO of a retail company. Would you say you've planned your career or just responded to some of the things that happened along the way?
No, I don't think that's true at all. Ever since I've been 3 years old, I used to dream of being the CEO of Woolies.
Oh, wow. You're one of the lucky ones.
I'm only joking. I think you find a different... You take different paths as your life progresses. It was never at even at the age of 22 in leaving university. I didn't necessarily see retail. I was ambitious. I wanted to get on. I loved commerce. I could have taken a number of routes, but thank goodness I eventually took a route that ended up with me being the CEO of a brand that I loved dearly.
Let's talk about your introduction coming into Woolworths. You were initially brought in, if I'm not mistaken, to head up the brand Country Road. Walk us through that process.
Well, I was with Country Road for nearly 12 years. And I came into Country Road initially as the chief operating officer. Then within 2 years took over as CEO. And that was a business that was, during that period, acquired by Woolworths. It was a business that was in need of a turnaround. It was in a very difficult situation. In fact, you couldn't get closer to bankruptcy than Country Road came in those times. So I learned a lot. It was a very tough job. We came through. We turned it into a profitable performing business. And I guess that helped my reputation. I have always had a great relationship with Simon Susman, our now chairman, who was then the chief executive of Woolies. And one thing eventually led to another, and here I am.
Let's touch on that brand, Country Road in particular. Having already established it as one of the most recognizable brands within the Woolworths fraternity, must feel like having watched your child grow.
That's exactly what it's like. I do feel it's like my baby. And I still feel it's like my baby now. It's just I'm also responsible for a much bigger, larger child that fortunately is behaving itself. That's Woolworths, by the way. And I still, I look at Country Road and how well it's done and where it's come from, and I look at the people that are now running that business and how they've developed and how they've changed, and how they're now driving a great brand, a great business, and very successful business. So I'm very proud of what that business has become, but I do often look at it and think, there's my baby.
Let's touch on your relationship with Simon Susman, who you did mention is the former chief executive of Woolworths. What would you say your relationship with him is like?
I think I've got a first-class relationship with Simon. We've always got on. We're quite different people, and I think our skills and our personalities are complementary. Simon has an incredible knowledge and understanding of the South African marketplace, of the Woolworths brand. It's so deeply entrenched in his psyche, and that really helps me. And I think together we make a great team. So as chairman and chief executive, I think we've done really good things with Woolies. And I think the whole, if you want to describe the whole as Simon and I, is actually better than the sum of the parts.
Let's touch on your baby, the big baby, which would be taking care of Woolworths as a whole. It's often in the South African market, when you say the word Woolworths, it's synonymous with quality, something that isn't really very easy for a lot of retailers in our local space to maintain. What is that little magic? What's that little secret that Woolworths has that ensures that there's quality across the board?
It's a deep, long-term commitment to quality. Nobody else can do quality like we can, because we've had years and years and years of passion towards it, commitment towards it. Our systems, our processes, our supply base, all of them are aligned to our values around quality. It doesn't come easy. You can lose it easily, and you must hold it precious and dear, and every single day make tough decisions on quality. Sometimes it can cost you a lot of money, but in the long term it's absolutely right and fundamental to the long-term benefit of the brand.
Let's touch on some of your expansion projects onto the rest of the African market. We know that you've got operations in countries like Nigeria. I'm sure you must have learned a lot of lessons in going out into the rest of the continent.
Strangely enough, I've just come back 2 weeks ago. We did a trip, some of the senior team, to 6 of our African countries that we're in, including Nigeria. And one of the things you learn very quickly is every country is different. You learn that every country is different, and Nigeria is certainly different to any country I've ever operated in. It takes a long time to get anywhere. It's a very informal retail marketplace. It's expensive, and it will be a long time before we make money in Nigeria, but it will come in time. And then if I look at other markets like Botswana and Namibia, much closer to South Africa, not just in a geographical sense, they're very similar to the market, so it's easy to do business. We make good money. We have good customer loyalty, good understanding of our brand. And so, very across Africa, all different, but it's the future. And we're very committed to that future. We will build our African business. It will become a more meaningful part of Woolies in time, but it will take time.
Let's touch on Woolworths in particular, because it seems as though South African consumers have been facing a lot of pressure economically, but it seems as though Woolies has managed to specifically target a group of consumers that is rather resilient towards the economic turbulence. Would you say you might expect to see more growth coming from this particular target market? And if so, where will it come from?
Look, we are seeing growth coming from that market now. As you say, that consumer has been more resilient. They're in a stronger position, and certainly have not been impacted by the pullback in unsecured lending. So if you have a look at our sales over the last 6 months, they've been strong. We're taking market share. The business is performing. And I think there is still a lot of headroom. If you look at our relative market share, particularly in foods, there's still a long way to go before we've reached our ceiling. So we're going to really aggressively grow the brand in South Africa as well as Africa and Australia. And we see us taking more money from existing customers. We're already doing that. And we see ourselves attracting new customers that are in that 8, 9, 10, but currently don't shop at Woolworths.
Any plans to launch new brands in the country?
No plans other than Witchery, which we acquired recently in Australia. That business, since we acquired it about 9 months ago, performing very well. I'm very happy with how we've transitioned that business into the group as a whole. So we'll launch Witchery and Mimco, which is an accessories brand, in March of next year. And we'll launch it in our own stores, and we'll launch it in standalone stores. Exactly the same thing as we did with Country Road and Trinity.
With launching a new brand in a country or a market like South Africa and Africa, what's the decision-making criteria there, the selection criteria? I doubt it's just a cut-and-paste job.
Yeah, it's actually quite a complex even deciding on a single new store in the South African marketplace. A lot of work goes into, what are the customers, what demographic type are they, what's their lifestyle, what are they looking for, how much of our business can we how much of a business can we have here, how much market share could we reasonably expect in this area, what substitution might we get, and then when we look at different markets, how big can they be, what constitutes critical mass, how profitable can we be. There's an enormous amount of work, and right down to what area, in what location, in what mall, in what area. How do we build it up over time? How much do we invest? How quickly do we expand in the marketplace? All of those are considerations either in any market or in any store.
You mentioned growing market share earlier on a few moments ago, as well as obviously expansion projects for Woolworths. What would you say are other contributing factors to your key strategy that you're trying to drive and for Woolworths under your leadership?
Look, I think we've done a number of things over the last 3 or 4 years that have transformed the business. You know, we've changed our merchandise cycle. We've changed the way we source and manage our goods. So we've increased our profit margins. It's made us a much more profitable business in clothing. We've become much faster, much more fashionable, much more modern clothing. The younger, blacker customer is responding to that, and that's great for the future of our business. In foods, we've got, I think, a really exciting future that's all about more stores, a bigger catalogue on offer, more exciting, innovative product, playing on our strengths, but also challenging new customers to try Woolworths and challenging our existing customers to say, everything you want for your food shop, you can now get at Woolies at great prices with all of the quality that's always been there. And you know what? You can get everything you want. You don't have to go somewhere else.
Would that tie into the legacy that you'd like to leave when you leave Woolworths one day?
I guess it would, yeah. You know, I'm early days yet, so I don't really think about a legacy. But I'd love to feel that we created a much bigger scale business that customers loved even more than they did when I first came into the job.
Ian, you've really had a milestone of a career and seem to be making even greater accomplishments and achievements at Woolworths. If you could speak to the younger version of yourself, maybe, you're probably only 25, so I'd say the 15-year-old you, what would you say as advice, career advice?
Look, don't be so aggressive, don't be so stupid, and wait.
How come?
Oh, look, I'm giving a talk at the weekend to teachers on a group of teachers on leadership, and I was thinking about it on the plane, and I think the younger me was too aggressive, made decisions too quickly, and I think wanted too much too quickly, and I think sometimes you've got to be careful what you wish for. And it's okay to chase the bus, but you need to know what you're going to do when you catch up with the bus. And I think that's something that I've learned. You need to be clear on what you want to do, how you're going to get there, why you want to get there, if it's really right for you. And then you make your move and then you make your decisions. You don't just blunder boldly on.
Ian, you're the chief executive of one of the largest and most well-known JSE-listed companies and retailers in South Africa. What keeps you awake at night?
Well, actually, at the moment, the fact that they're digging up the road below me, which is hugely annoying. But retailers are funny guys. We fret all the time. So, you know, Babs was giving me a hard time for not celebrating our result and being worried about too much about our future and where we're heading and what the next result is. But that's the nature of retail. You're always worried about your next result. You're worried about, is your range right? Is winter going to come? You're worried about, you know, is your food strategy right? You're worried about your competitors catching up with you. You're just constantly worried. And, you know, you either like that or you don't like that. And sometimes it keeps you up and sometimes it doesn't.
And that was Ian Moir, the chief executive of well-known retail group Woolworths.